Okay, so someone in your class asked to share this again, and maybe I didn't, but I went over it in class that day and I asked you to take notes, but I'll go through it again quickly. So this is about the functions of the skeletal system, and I think just the fact that, bones are not just this dead thing, there's a lot of stuff going on, and also about the joints. So very quickly, provides a framework that supports the body. We don't have an exoskeleton like insects, arthropods, crabs, and if we didn't, it would just be kind of like on the bottom, ooging around here. Second thing, it's a site of attachment for muscles. And you know that very well now by looking at the chickens. And here's a great example of our knee where we have the tendons here and the muscles. And so without that, remember, muscles contract and they pull the bones to them, which hence we move. Protection, we know this one also. Clearly, the rib cage protects our lungs and other vital organs up in our chest area. And of course, our brain is protected by our skeleton. As you also know, all of our stem cells, at least for blood production, is here. So red blood cells, white blood cells, platelets are all being formed there in a bone marrow. And this would be the red marrow. And if we cut a bone in cross-section like you kind of did with the chicken wings, if you did that, you'd find that inside the shaft of the bone is where the marrow is located. Now, because your bone is made out of calcium phosphate, it actually serves as a reservoir to store excess calcium as needed. So if your calcium start dropping, remember that affects nerve impulses and muscle impulse, all different types of things, blood clotting, and so we have a way in which we can kind of break down the calcium and release it back to the bloodstream and then take it around where it's needed. Another storage is fat. Remember when we talked about organic compounds in terms of nutrition, fats, the lipids, the triglycerides, they're important for lots of things, but one of the main functions is just extra storage for energy later, so fat. And again, here's a cartoon picture, of course, of a shaft of a long bone, and there's that yellow marrow inside there. Keeping note that, remember, there are blood vessels going in. This hard stuff here, aka bone, actually has living cells in there which need oxygen, get rid of carbon dioxide, waste, etc. And here's a grisly picture of sorts, but yellow marrow, red marrow. And of course, it makes tasty soup. Yum. I mentioned before that calcium phosphate makes the bone hard, almost like fiberglass with the collagen, like the fiber, and the calcium phosphate, the resin kind of thing. So here's a picture of a bone without any calcium, and you can bend it like a pretzel. And again, just to point out that your bone isn't dead. There's these sites in here where the osteocytes survive and get their nutrition. Again, blood vessels coming in and out, nerve tissue, I should say. And here's a picture of what your bone would look like in cross-section. Almost look like a ring of trees, but always little black little dots there is where the osteocytes survive and produce in there. Here's a quick picture of developmental process of how your bones grow. Starting out with cartilage and the growth plates at the end. And the last piece is just the different types of joints. And a joint is defined as any place where two bones come together. Some can move, some can't. Your skull is composed of joints, but they're fixed joints. But the ones you're familiar with are the ones pictured here, like the ball and socket, the hinge, gliding. If you ever had a sister, or even you had your own Barbie doll and you pull the arms out, there you go, ball and socket. And here's a cartoon picture of the ball and socket, kind of pivots around our hip and our shoulder, great examples of that. And here's a kind of a better picture of that. And notice the cartilage on the cartilage there articulates. This is a sliding picture, cartoon picture. This would be kind of your wrist. And here's a hinge, which would be your elbows and your knees. And then this last picture here is just a great picture because it shows cartilage. It shows ligaments here we're pointing out, and the tendons, and this would actually be your knee. It's amazing that your knee works so well considering all the pressure. And these little things here that the arrow's on are your meniscus, and those are like pads of cartilage which help cushion and distribute the weight better. You might hear about torn meniscus. That's what's being torn. And you can see the little guy waving to you now. You have a test coming up this Friday, so study.